Before I say a single word, I want you to do something for me. Wherever you are right now, on your couch, stuck in traffic, lying in bed scrolling when you swore you'd go to sleep an hour ago, I want you to remember this exact moment. Remember the room you're in, because if what I watched tonight is real, this is one of those nights Lakers fans are going to be telling stories about for the next 10 years, and you are going to want to remember that you heard it here first. So let me take you back about 45 minutes. I was watching the show, nothing special, just a regular night, the usual crew sitting around the desk, going back and forth about the offseason like they always do. They'd already spent 20 minutes arguing about whether LeBron James is coming back for a 24th season, whether he retires, whether he shocks the planet and signs somewhere else, because that is the question hanging over this entire summer. And I'll be honest with you, I had one eye on the TV and one eye on my phone. I was halfway gone, and then the energy in the studio changed. You know that feeling. You can't explain it, but you feel it through the screen. One of the producers must have said something in their ear, because suddenly everybody at that desk straightened up. Somebody slid a phone across the table, and the camera cut kind of abruptly to Shams Charania. Now, if you've watched this stuff for any amount of time, you know what it means when they go to Shams in the middle of a segment that had nothing to do with him. It means the floor just shifted. It means somebody somewhere just made a phone call that's about to change the league. And he had that look, that flat, calm, I already know something you don't look that drives me crazy every single time. And here's the part where I need you to stay with me, because I'm gonna tell you exactly what he said, but I want you to understand the full picture first, so you understand why my jaw is still on the floor. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here because I've replayed it about 6 times, that according to sources, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Los Angeles Lakers have engaged in serious advanced conversations centered on Donovan Mitchell, not a check-in, not a courtesy call. Serious advanced conversations, and the framework that's being discussed would send Donovan Mitchell, a 5-time All-Star, a guy who just averaged 27.9 points a game this season, to Los Angeles to play alongside Luka Doncic. I want you to sit with that for a second, the way I had to. Donovan Mitchell, in purple and gold, standing next to Luka. Now, I already know exactly what some of you are doing right now. Some of you are yelling at your screen going, that's impossible. The money doesn't work. Mitchell makes $50 million. The Lakers can't just absorb that. And you're right to be skeptical. You should be skeptical. I was skeptical too. So stay with me, because I went and dug into how this would actually have to work. And what I found is the reason I think this is more real than people want to admit. But before we get into the how, let's talk about the why, because the why is what makes this whole thing make a sick kind of sense. Think about where the Lakers are right now. This season ended ugly. They won 53 games in the regular season. They looked dangerous on paper, and then they got bounced in the second round by Oklahoma City in 4 straight games. Swept, gone. And the brutal part, the part that still stings, is that they went through that entire playoff run without Luka Doncic, because he was dealing with a hamstring injury that knocked him out for the whole postseason. The same Luka Doncic who led the entire NBA in scoring this year at 33.5 points a game. The best offensive player on the roster watched the season die in a suit. So the Lakers walk into this summer with one clear truth staring them in the face. This is Luka's team now. The front office has basically said it out loud. Rob Pelinka stood up there and talked about building the roster, and I'm quoting the idea here, retrofitted around Luka and the things he needs. That's the mission. Build around the 26-year-old superstar, not around the 41-year-old legend whose future nobody can predict. And that's where it gets spicy, because LeBron's situation is the domino. LeBron James is an unrestricted free agent for the first time in basically forever. Nobody knows what he's doing. The reporting out there even has Cleveland and Golden State circling him like they'd love to make a run. One insider literally put it at 51% Lakers, which, if you do the math, means there's a 49% chance the greatest Laker scorer of all time plays somewhere else next year. That is not a comfortable number if you're a Lakers fan. So picture the front office in that war room. They've got Luka locked in long-term on the extension he signed last August. They've got Austin Reeves, who by all accounts is going to decline his $14.9 million player option and look for the big payday he has absolutely earned. They've got a roster that needs, in Pelinka's own words, athletic wings, perimeter defenders, and a more mobile center to fit next to Luka. And they're sitting on the possibility of real cap space, the kind of flexibility this franchise hasn't had since 2019. Now here's the question I kept coming back to. If you're the Lakers and the whole league knows your plan is to put pieces around Luka, what is the single most valuable piece you could possibly add? A spot-up shooter, a defensive specialist, or a bona fide 28-point-a-game scorer who can create his own shot, take over fourth quarters, and take the pressure off Luka when defenses load up on him? I think you already know the answer, and I think the Lakers know it too. That's the why. Now let's get into the how, because this is where I went down a rabbit hole tonight and came back with my hair on fire. Here's the problem, and it's a real one. Donovan Mitchell is owed about $50 million next season. You cannot just wave a magic wand and bring that onto your books. In this new, brutal salary cap system, the math has to work almost to the dollar, and Cleveland has to want what's coming back. So how does Los Angeles even get in the room for this? The framework that's apparently being floated centers on a couple of moving parts. First, the Lakers would likely have to re-sign Austin Reeves and then include him in the deal as the salary centerpiece, the way these blockbusters usually work. Then you start stacking the contracts that make the money add up. You're talking about a guy like Jared Vanderbilt and his $12.4 million. You're talking about young pieces like Dalton Knecht. And then, because Cleveland is going to demand it, you're talking about draft capital, future first-round picks, the kind the Lakers have been hoarding for exactly a moment like this, plus that pick they're holding in this year's draft. And here is the part that nobody wants to say out loud, so I'll say it. A trade like this would mean the Lakers are choosing. They'd be choosing Donovan Mitchell as the co-star, which might mean saying goodbye to some of the guys you've grown to love. It might even be connected to how the LeBron situation plays out, because if LeBron decides this is the year he moves on, or if he comes back at a number that gives the Lakers flexibility, suddenly the path to a Mitchell deal gets a whole lot clearer. These dominoes are all leaning on each other, so stop and think about what that backcourt would actually look like. Luka Doncic, the best offensive engine in the sport, running the show, and next to him, Donovan Mitchell, a guy who has dropped 71 points in a single game in his career, a guy who has carried teams in the playoffs, a guy who just averaged almost 28 a night. Two of the most dangerous scorers alive, on the same floor, in the same uniform at Crypto.com Arena. Defenses would have nightmares. You double Luka, Mitchell punishes you. You stay home on Mitchell, Luka picks you apart. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, and here's the thing that makes the fit even better. The thing I think the front office sees clear as day. Go back and look at what actually killed the Lakers against Oklahoma City. Without Luka, this team had nobody who could reliably create a bucket out of nothing when the offense bogged down. They got swept partly because when the shot clock was winding down and they needed someone to just go get two, the cupboard was bare. That is the exact disease Donovan Mitchell cures. He is one of the best isolation scorers and shot creators in the entire league. He is a guy who can take a possession that's falling apart and turn it into points by himself. So even on the nights Luka is out, even on the nights the offense gets stuck, you'd have a second engine who can carry the load. The Lakers learned the hard way this spring exactly what they're missing. Mitchell is the answer to the question that Sweep asked. Now think about it inside JJ Redick's system. Redick wants pace, he wants spacing, he wants multiple guys who can attack a tilted defense. You give him Luka and Mitchell as twin creators, and then you surround them with the guys you keep. You keep a defender and rebounder like Jared Vanderbilt to do the dirty work. You keep your young shooters and developing pieces to space the floor. You add the kind of mobile center Pelinka has openly said he's hunting for. All of a sudden, you've got a top-of-the-league offense with two all-star scorers and just enough connective tissue around them to function. That's not a fantasy roster. That's a roster you can actually build from where the Lakers are sitting today, especially with the draft capital and the cap flexibility they've got in their pocket. And before you ask, no, you don't need a perfect roster on day one. You need the stars first. The rest gets filled in as the season goes, with trades and buyout guys and the kind of moves a team in win now mode makes in February. You grab the franchise-altering talent when the door cracks, and the door on Mitchell is cracked right now. And this is a big but. I told you I'd be honest with you, so here's the wrinkle that complicates everything, and it's the reason I think this story has a clock on it. Donovan Mitchell's contract is a ticking time bomb, and not in the way you might think. Yes, he's owed $50 million next year, with a player option worth around $54 million the year after. The Cavaliers desperately want to lock him up long term. They can offer him a 4-year extension worth up to about $272 million starting this July. That's the leash. That's how Cleveland keeps him. But here's the twist that smart people in the league have been whispering about all season. It is actually in Donovan Mitchell's financial interest to not sign that extension. If he waits until 2027, he hits 10 years of NBA service, and at that point, he becomes eligible for a 5-year Supermax contract worth close to $350 million. 350. Plus, waiting gives him things like a potential no-trade clause and total control over his own future. Do you see what that does? It means Mitchell has leverage that most players never get. He doesn't have to do anything. He can sit there, decline to sign that extension, and quietly let Cleveland sweat. And if Cleveland senses even for a second that he might walk in free agency in 2027 and leave them with nothing, then trading him this summer while his value is sky high becomes the smart business move. That's not me being dramatic. That's reporting that's been floating around Cleveland for months. There have been actual conversations about the Cavaliers exploring a roster rebuild built around moving Mitchell, especially after how their season ended. And how did their season end? Oh, you're gonna love this if you're a Lakers fan, and you're gonna feel a little bad if you're a decent human being. The Cavaliers finally broke through and made the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since LeBron left in 2018. And then they got swept. 4-0 by the New York Knicks. And the way it happened was almost cruel. They blew a 22-point lead in Game 1. Mitchell himself said afterward that the collapse changed the entire feeling of the series, and Cleveland never recovered. 4 straight double-digit losses. The last one was a 37-point blowout. So now you've got a superstar coming off a gutting playoff exit, a front office staring down a franchise-altering financial decision, and a contract structure that practically begs for a trade. You connect those dots, and a Donovan Mitchell move stops sounding crazy and starts sounding inevitable. The only question was where, and tonight Shams put the Lakers right in the middle of it. Now, I promised you I'd handle the skeptics because I know you're out there, and frankly, I respect you. So let me take the strongest argument against this and deal with it head on. The biggest objection is the one I hear every single time these Lakers rumors pop up. They always get linked to every star. It's just noise. Remember when they were supposed to be in on Giannis? And you're not wrong, the Lakers are expected to at least kick the tires on Giannis Antetokounmpo, who could be moved by Milwaukee before the draft. So why would I believe the Mitchell thing is more than the usual Lakers smoke? Here's why. The Giannis situation is a feeding frenzy. Multiple teams like Miami, are expected to put together packages that are honestly more appealing to Milwaukee than what the Lakers can offer. The reporting even suggests the Lakers might strike out on Giannis and have to pivot to a backup plan. And I keep asking myself, what is that backup plan? You don't go all the way down the road of clearing cap space, of building around Luka, of telling the world you need a star, and then settle for a role player when it falls through. The backup plan, the real one, the one that fits Luka like a glove, is a guard who can score. The backup plan might be Donovan Mitchell. So when people say it's just the Giannis thing again, I say, that's exactly the point. The Mitchell talk might be what's waiting on the other side of the Giannis chaos. The second objection is about defense and fit. Some of you are saying, 2 small guards. Luka and Mitchell both need the ball. Neither one is a lockdown defender. That team gets cooked in the playoffs. And look, that's a fair concern. It really is. But here's my answer. You don't build a champion in one move. You build the engine first, and you find the role player second. The whole point of this offseason, the thing Pelinka said out loud, is that they want to add defenders and a mobile center around their stars. You get the superstar scoring punch first, the thing that's almost impossible to find, and then you fill in the gaps with the contracts and the draft picks and the minimum guys who can defend. Cores like this don't get assembled in perfect order. You grab the talent when the window cracks open, and the window on a player like Mitchell does not stay open long. And the third thing, the thing I can't shake, is the emotional read on it. Luka Doncic got traded to Los Angeles in one of the most shocking trades in the history of the sport, and then he watched his first real playoff run with this team die from the bench because of an injury. You don't think the Lakers want to make a statement to him this summer? You don't think they want to walk into Luka's offseason and say, we hear you, we're serious, here's a co-star in his prime to run with you for the next half decade? That's not just basketball, that's a message. And bringing in a player like Donovan Mitchell sends that message louder than anything else they could do. So let me tell you where my head is at right now, and then I've got one more thing for you that I genuinely cannot stop thinking about. If this happens, the entire balance of the Western Conference shifts. Oklahoma City has been the bully on the block. The Lakers just got embarrassed by them, but a healthy Luka next to a prime Donovan Mitchell with shooters and defenders around them is the kind of duo that can trade haymakers with anybody. Suddenly, that second round sweep looks like the low point before the climb, not the beginning of the end. Suddenly, LeBron's decision, whatever it is, doesn't have to define the franchise, because the franchise has already pivoted to its future. And don't underestimate what a move like this signals about availability and durability either. One of the reasons the Lakers' season fell apart was injury. They lost their best player for the entire postseason. Donovan Mitchell just played 70 games this year. He's a guy who suits up, who's in the lineup, who you can count on night after night. For a team that just watched its championship dream die in street clothes, adding a star with that kind of reliability isn't a small thing. It's a direct response to the exact wound that's still raw, and it tells Luka in the loudest way possible that the Lakers are building something real around him right now while he's still ascending. And here's the thing I want to leave you with, the detail that I think is the key to this whole story, and almost nobody is connecting it. Remember what I told you about Mitchell's contract leverage, about how he can wait until 2027 for the bigger deal and the no trade clause. Here's why that matters for the Lakers specifically. If you're Donovan Mitchell and you have the power to shape where you end up, what's the most attractive destination on the board? A team in a small market that just got swept? Or the Los Angeles Lakers, the biggest brand in basketball, in a city you can build an entire post-career life in, playing next to the best young offensive talent in the world? I'm not saying Mitchell is forcing his way anywhere. I have no reporting that says that, and I'm not going to make it up for you. But I am saying that the gravity here makes too much sense. The Lakers need a scoring co-star. Mitchell has the leverage to influence his future. Cleveland has every financial incentive to move him now rather than risk losing him for nothing later. And tonight, Shams Charania said on air that serious conversations are happening. You add all of that up, and I don't care how skeptical you are. You feel it too, don't you? So here's what I need from you. I need you to keep your phone close over the next few days, because the draft is right around the corner, and these deals tend to break in the 72 hours of total chaos around draft night. I need you to remember where you were sitting when you heard this. And I need you to tell me, down below, do you make this trade? If you're the Lakers, do you give up the picks and the players to put Donovan Mitchell next to Luka Doncic? Or do you keep your assets, run it back, and pray LeBron comes home one more time? Because somewhere out there tonight, a Lakers front office is doing that exact math. And somewhere out there, a certain very loud man at the debate desk who has spent years doubting this franchise is, I imagine, being slowly scraped off the ceiling. I'll be watching every second of it, and the moment anything moves, you know, I'll be right back here to break it all down for you. Stay close. This one's just getting started.